Story time. My boyfriend cheated on me with my best friend. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for 2 years, but we were on and off all the time. It was a super toxic relationship. Like, he would try to get with other girls, and I would try to get with other guys to make him jealous, blah, blah, blah. Well, a week before Christmas, him and I broke up again. And I had my best friend sleep over that whole week because her parents were in Ireland. And my boyfriend lived right down the street from me. Like, it was probably a 2-minute walk to his house. Well, for the first 3 nights, my best friend would go on a jog every night, and she would be gone for like 2 hours. I would literally have to go unlock the door at 1 in the morning for her to get back in my house. Well, I think the 3rd night that she slept over, she came back in different clothes. And I realized that the sweatshirt she was wearing was my boyfriend's favorite sweatshirt. But I didn't really think anything of it because she never really showed interest in my boyfriend. But clearly I was oblivious. Anyways. So that same night, I wake up in the middle of the night and she's on the phone with someone. And it sounded exactly like my boyfriend. So I asked her who it was, but she couldn't give me an answer, like for part 2. Part 2 of how my boyfriend cheated on me with my best friend. So she told me not to worry about it, and I was like, alright, whatever. So the next day, my boyfriend shows up at my house asking to get back together. Not a surprise, by the way. And of course I said, okay, we can be back together, blah, blah, blah. So that night while I'm in my room, my best friend's on the phone, and she has her AirPods in, so I couldn't hear who it was. And she was like, okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And when I asked her where she was going, she wouldn't tell me. Well, she left her phone at my house. And because she usually tells me everything, I thought that something sus was going on. So I went through her phone. And I see that she's been texting this guy Jay a lot. And as I'm going through their conversation, there's one text that says, I don't care if she finds out. Just sneak over to my house while you're there. So I check the phone numbers, and obviously it's my boyfriend. Her parents are really strict, like she was only supposed to be at my house that week, nowhere else. So I may have made up some stories that she had drugs in her bag, and that she was forcing me to do drugs with her. So her parents came home early from their trip, they sent her to military school, and I broke up with my boyfriend.
Storytime on how my wig came off in front of my date. The guy I was meeting up with on the date was one of my friend's co-workers. She actually set us up because she thought that he would be my type. Fast forward, we go to Fridays and we're having a great time. And he seems like a nice all-around type of guy. Now, that day my wig was slayed and I believe the hair was like 30 inches. When the waitress comes over, she gives me and my date our plate of food. Before she leaves, she asks us if there anything else we needed. We said no. Then she put a pen that she had in her hand in her back pocket. And like I said before, my hair was really long. And she ended up sweeping a few of my hairs in her pocket. When the waitress walks away, my wig pops off. And me and my date are in shock. He stares at me for a good 10 seconds, and I tell him I needed to go to the bathroom, and I also got my wig back. But when I come back out to apologize and continue our date, he disappears. Oh yeah, and I also ended up paying for the whole date.
Story time about how I got caught skipping school almost every day of my senior year. So our school had just started this new thing where you fill out all your contact information online. And my dad was like, okay, yeah, just fill yours out. And it pretty much was who can pick you up, who can make early dismissals for you, who they can call if you're in trouble. Well, I decided to be a sneaky little bastard and put my boyfriend in for every single one of those contacts. I would start school around 7:30 a.m. and I would go to the nurse's office at like 9 a.m. and she would call and my boyfriend would act like my dad and be like, okay, yeah, just let her drive home. Well, my guidance counselor noticed after about 3 months of me never being at school. So she called the number hoping to speak to my dad. But instead she got my boyfriend. And he just thought it was a random person, so he didn't act like my dad. Because neither of us knew. Like for part 2. Okay, part 2. Okay, so pretty much what happened after that is she called and like she found out that it wasn't my dad. And then she went digging and like she like called my sister to the office and she was like, what's your dad's phone number? And my sister was like, why? Like, don't you guys have it already? And I also put the same numbers for my sisters so that way in case this day came, then you know, it wouldn't look suspicious. Well, I don't know what she threatened my sister with, but she scared the hell out of her, so she gave her my dad's number. And so my sister told me whenever she got home, so I went to school the next day. And it was like a surprise party whenever I walked in the office. The dean was there, the principal was there, and my guidance counselor. So I got in trouble and then they were like, oh, we're calling your dad. So what did I do? I left before they caught him.
ever made. This was a real show called Obby that aired in 2000, and it was actually created by the same people who started Sesame Street. The idea is simple. Instead of puppets, it's just the hands talking with ping pong balls for the eyes. But there's just something very unsettling about the whole thing. People have said the way the characters talk is very disturbing, the way they move around. Them being puppets without actually being puppets is almost as if we're watching the skeleton of puppets perform, or like a puppet that's just made out of flesh. And yes, this show wasn't made to actually be scary in any way, but it's on the list of the scariest kid shows ever because some kids really did have nightmares.
Storytime to when my boyfriend cheated on me with his mom and this other girl. Also, this is not my story. Okay, so everything was normal for the first 5 to 6 months until he started acting very suspicious. And when I say he was very suspicious, I mean he was hiding his phone from me and he was always busy to hang out with me. But I didn't think anything of it, so, you know, I moved on. Until one day we were in his room and he was taking a shower. I was sitting on his bed and then I heard a bang. And like any girl, I was curious, so I checked his phone. And it was his mom sending him a picture of her boob. Well, half of her boob showing. And as anyone would be, I was shocked. But I just thought it was the wrong person, so I forgot about it. Until we got into an argument and I brought it up. But he just acted confused and said that I was lying. So I said, then you wouldn't mind if I looked at your phone. Come back for part 2. So I asked him if I could check his phone if I was really lying, and he just walked away. And he also just drove away. But later that night, we got into another argument and I asked him where he went. And it got really heated again, and this time he left for 2 days. And I was really worried when he got back, but then he smelled very weird. So I asked him where he was, and this time he answered, and you guys know what he said? At my sister's house having a threesome with her and another guy that apparently he was seeing for a couple weeks now. So then I thought maybe it wasn't his mom that sent him the picture of her boob. So I stormed out of the house and sent him a text message saying that we were done. So the next day, I asked him who else he was sleeping with while he was with me, and he mentioned his mom's name, my sister's name, a guy named Mike, and someone from my job. And I currently do not communicate with him or my sister.
So it's Friday night. My man tells me he's going to go out with the boys for a little while. So, of course, a couple hours later, I check his location on the OnStar, which, by the way, he knows absolutely nothing about. And he's at this particular address that's unfamiliar to me. And I'm like, you know what? The last few times he's gone out, he's been going to this address. And I'm now really curious. I want to know who the fuck lives there. I'm like, I need to stalk his ass. So I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, I got to call my sister to come over here. She'll watch the kids while they're sleeping. I'll take her car, go to this apartment, look through the window and see what's going on. And imagine I look through the window and he's sitting there with some fucking bitch having drinks on the couch, laughing, joking, having fun. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I need to kick the door down and beat both their asses. And then I'm like, you know what? Maybe you're overreacting a little bit. Let's take a moment and give him a call, see if he actually answers the phone. So I give him a call. The first ring, he doesn't answer. My heart's palpitating. The second ring, I'm like, I got to call my sister right now. And just as I'm about to hang up, he answers the phone. He's like, hey, babe, what's up? And I'm like, hey, babe, what you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm at the bar, you know, we used to go to before you had the baby. And I'm like, oh, tell everybody I said what's up. And he's like, hey, the wifey said what's up. And I'm like, shit, I almost killed someone innocent.
Storytime on how my brother and I got caught, you know, doing the dirty. And also we are married now.